Luke. It's opening day of the football season here on Sunday. I'm super excited. We got my Steelers going against the Buffalo Bills. Obviously 13 other games on the slate as well, so a lot of exciting times to come. But in this video, we're going to be covering the Monday Night Football Showdown slate between the Baltimore Ravens and, of course, on the other side, the Las Vegas Raiders. It's a relatively close game, only a 4-point spread, also over a 50.5 point total. So going to be some fireworks, some scoring from each side, and a lot of Draftkings contests as well. We have a Millie Maker, a ton of GPPs, 100K to first, a 200K to first GPP. So going to be tons of people in those polls, especially after the first weekend of games. And a lot of money to be made as a result. We're going to see a lot of casuals after the first weekend, especially for the main slate GPP, head over to these GPPs as well. So making sure you do your proper research, you understand who's starting, the depth charts, those kind of things are definitely going to give you an edge. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to cover my top 3 options to spend up for each team. And then we're going to hop into my top 3 value picks as well as my top 3 picks for the captain slot. Essentially a quick hitter video. We're going to give you the picks for this game and get on out of here so you guys can watch the games today. So without further delay, let's get into the picks. First with our favorite 3 options for the Ravens. Starting out on the Baltimore side of the ball, we have a team with a very interesting injury situation. Obviously had 4 of the running backs go down with season-ending injuries, and now they're really down to the bare bones at the position. The only person they've had on their team for any extended period of time is Tyson Williams. He's an undrafted free agent in 2020, so not necessarily somebody with a high pedigree or a lot of confidence behind him or anything like that. They recently signed Latavius Murray, who had been in Saints camp the entire preseason, was cut just before the regular season started due to contract disputes. So somebody who's in game shape at the very least will serve as the number 2 running back tonight. And they also added Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell. Both of them are on their practice squad, aren't going to be active for Monday night's game. So as a result, we're going to see a split between Murray and, of course, Williams as the number 1. But in my opinion, the guy you want to go to is Latavius Murray, somebody who's a much better back, has a much higher pedigree as well, and somebody who fits the Baltimore system a lot better. With Murray, you have a very large runner, somebody who's a bruiser, can also catch the ball out of the backfield, something that he learned down there in New Orleans. They ended up throwing the ball to him a lot more than people expected him to. In the past, it had some bad hands, but if you're going to be a running back down there in New Orleans, you have to be able to catch the ball. It's just a huge part of their system. So he was able to pick that up. And now that he's on the Baltimore Ravens, I expect that to be a huge asset. It's not something we saw from him before, but obviously a very good runner, very efficient runner, averages over 5 yards per carry. So that's why I'm targeting him there at number 2. He's only $6,200, cheaper than Williams, and somebody I expect to be a lot more efficient. So whether he's the number 1 or number 2 going into this first game, I don't think it necessarily matters. They're going to ride the hot hand. Baltimore is a team that runs the ball 35 plus times per game. So he's definitely going to get his fair share, whether he's the starter initially out of the gate or not. At number 3, we have Mark Andrews. So we're going to go to a pass catcher on this team. I'm only targeting Mark Andrews. I think this is going to be a very much so a run-first attack. We'll get to that there at number 1. But Lamar Jackson, I expect to have the most carries of anyone on this entire team. But Mark Andrews at $9,000, obviously the best pass catcher on that team. You have Marquise Brown. He's $7,600. I don't hate going there either. But Mark Andrews is a lot more of a red zone threat. Somebody's going to catch a touchdown per game, essentially on average. In a showdown format, that's what I'm looking for. Marquise Brown's likely to potentially get a deep ball or something like that, but definitely doesn't have the type of floor like somebody like Andrews has. But at number 1, you have Lamar Jackson. He's $12,400. I think he's going to get an absolute crap ton of carries here. So because they're missing their potential starting running back, backup running back, and third string running back, the only real established runner on this team is Lamar Jackson. And we saw him last year run an absolute crap ton, over 1,000 yards rushing. And now that he's the primary rusher, we're going to see probably 100, maybe even 110 yards rushing from him tonight. Obviously, he's going to put up some passing stats as well, potentially a touchdown or 2 in that category. So Lamar Jackson, even though he's the most expensive player on the slate, it's not even close. At $12,400, I think he's almost a must play. Again, a lot of that comes down to the rushing upside. He's going to put up running back numbers. He's going to be the primary rusher in this entire game as a quarterback, and obviously gets those quarterback stats as well. So I don't think you can go wrong with Lamar Jackson. You can see he makes my captain's list later on as well. He's at number 4 or 5 on my list, so he's not going to be in our top 3, but definitely somebody I'll have at captain this weekend just because he has 40, even 50 plus point upside as a captain. But not necessarily one of my favorite targets there. But again, we'll get to that here within the second part of the video. Next, we're going to go through the Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 3, we have Darren Waller. At $10,800, he's the most expensive player on that team. But again, that's well warranted. He was the number 5 receiving target in the NFL last year. So that's combining tight ends and wide receivers. He was a top 5 a receiver in the NFL. Somebody who gets plenty of targets, catches about 8 balls per game. Also very good in the red zone. So Derek Carr, he's going to go to a security blanket early and often. That's Darren Waller. Obviously, don't love the price. If he was $9,000 or even $9,500, he would be an absolute lock, but still one of my favorite plays on the entire slate. At number 2, we have Derek Carr, and I expect this Las Vegas offense to very much so be pass heavy. The run defense of Baltimore is extremely stout. They have a very good front 7, a couple really good fast linebackers as well. So as a result, Derek Carr is going to have to spread the ball around, kind of extend that defense, try to wear them out a bit. Towards the end of the game, when they start to slow down, I think they're going to start running the ball a little bit more, especially if Las Vegas has a lead. But I don't necessarily expect that to be the case. The Ravens are favorites here. The team, I believe, that has the better set of players as well. So Derek Carr, if he's going to be playing from behind, is going to throw the ball about 40, maybe even 45 times this game. So guys like Darren Waller are going to be a beneficiary. And our guy at number 1, Henry Ruggs III, also going to be a huge beneficiary of playing from behind. Somebody who costs $5,000 on this slate. So I love the price tag. That's really good salary relief. He can be a core kind of bread and butter piece in all of your lineups. And somebody who's definitely in for a huge upgrade here in 2021. He came into the league a little bit of an unpolished route runner, somebody who was a lot more of a speedster, not necessarily a technical, route runner. But now that he's had an extra year in the Raiders system, he has an entire training camp. All reports out of Las Vegas are that he looks polished. Like, he's been working on his fundamentals. All of his routes are essentially to the T now. Obviously extremely explosive. So if he can put those little bit of technicalities together, he's somebody who's going to be a huge player in this offense. So at $5,000, I really like the price tag. He's somebody I expect 7 to 8 targets, 5 to 6 catches, and he's one of the better downfield targets in the NFL. Had a top 5 average catch yardage last year. Somebody who had the highest air yards of any player in the NFL last year as well. So Henry Ruggs III, going to get targeted early and often, especially downfield, by a strong-armed quarterback like Derek Carr. Now for our value picks and our captains. Starting out with the values, though. At number 3, we have Justin Tucker. Quite simply the best kicker in the NFL. Only $4,000. This is a relatively high over-under game as well. So anytime you have a high over-under, you can expect the kickers to get plenty of action. So if Justin Tucker goes out, makes 3 or 4 field goals, has 1 or 2 extra points, that's going to be more than enough to be optimal in terms of a DraftKings lineup. At number 2, we have Sammy Watkins at $5,200. So I don't necessarily love going to some of these Baltimore pass catchers, but if you're going to have to, Sammy Watkins is going to be extremely low owned. So perhaps if you're looking for some uniqueness, trying to differentiate your lineup a little bit, perhaps you're playing some of those chalky options I mentioned before, Sammy Watkins could be your guy. Obviously, one of the better targets when he was at the Bills back in the day, was a huge prospect coming out of college. Didn't really make a huge impact over there at Kansas City. Obviously had Tyreek Hill kind of stealing the show, but now he's over in Baltimore where Marquise Brown's his biggest competitor, and nothing against Marquise Brown, but he's not an elite wide receiver by any means. Sammy Watkins could see 7, even 8 targets in this game, and I wouldn't be surprised. If he does so at $5,200, he's going to have more than enough opportunity to pay that off. So I don't hate him as a value pick there. A little bit expensive for a value pick. We're just really bare bones with the options on this slate. There's not many options priced very low. Even the running backs for Baltimore that were just added to the roster are priced up to that $6,000, almost $7,000 range. So it's really hard to get some value on this slate. But at number 1, we have an absolute slam dunk value. He's a lock play. He's actually one of my favorite captains on this slate. We'll get to that here as soon as we finish this up as a value pick. But he's only $2,800, and Hunter Renfrow is going to play almost every snap for the Las Vegas Raiders. Out of camp, he's been absolutely polished. I mean, we saw it last year. They called him Mr. Third Down there over in Las Vegas. Somebody who on third down had the best numbers of anyone in the NFL. A very good route runner. Somebody who's going to play the slot for Derek Carr. And with Henry Ruggs emerging, with Bryan Edwards also emerging as a very good target for the Raiders, Hunter Renfrow should get even more separation. Teams started to hunker down on him. He was really the only solid option for the Raiders last year. But now that they have 3 decent options, I expect him to have an even better season. At $2,800, this is a blatant misprice. So that's why I'm so bullish on him as a value pick. He's essentially the only good value option on this slate. I mean, I like Justin Tucker as well, but he's a kicker, right? You're not always going to get that ceiling performance from a kicker. It's kind of hard to predict. But Hunter Renfrow in for a huge performance here and only $2,800. And that's why I like him at captain. You could see he's only $4,200 at captain. And at that price tag, you can essentially play whoever you want at every other position. You can play both quarterbacks. You could go Darren Waller. You could take one of the good running backs from Baltimore as well, perhaps Latavius Murray, that kind of thing. So Hunter Renfrow, as a cash piece, my favorite captain, somebody who has a relatively high floor. And at $4,200, he really opens up the rest of your team. But at number 2, if I'm going to spend up for a captain, I'm going to spend the whole way up for Darren Waller at $16,200. It's a whopping price tag, but somebody who's capable of putting up 30 regular fantasy points, 45, even 50 points at the captain slot. If he goes out and has one of those nuclear performances, 150 yards, 8 catches, 2 touchdowns, that kind of thing. He did that regularly last year. He's going to break the slate. So Darren Waller, somebody I'm getting to in quite a few of my captain lineups. But at number 1, we have Derek Carr, who's not even the most expensive guy on his team, which to me is a little bit ridiculous. We have a high over-under here, over 50 points expected in this game. So at $14,700, I don't hate that price tag at all. I love pairing him up with a team stack, perhaps using Waller outside the captain slot, going to somebody like Henry Ruggs, perhaps even one of the tight ends from that team. Don't hate it either. So a couple of the captains that didn't make the list, I mentioned it before, Lamar Jackson. I have him at number 5. Just the price tag's a little bit ridiculous. You're paying over $17,000 for him at captain, which frankly is just too high. We also have, let's see, who else do we have at captain? We also have Latavius Murray. I'm as in the number 4 option, so he just missed the list. Again, he's going to be relatively low owned. I don't think many people are going to be going to him at the captain slot, but he could very well see 10 to 15 carries here in the game. He's very efficient with those carries, typically averaging over 5 yards per carry, also productive out of the backfield as a receiver. So I think he has really high upside with really low ownership as well. That's all I've got for my showdown picks, guys. Let me know in the comments who your favorite captain play on the slate is. Perhaps it's Hunter Renfrow, just the ridiculous price tag. If you're playing cash, I assume that's going to be your captain. But in GPPs, it might be somebody like Darren Waller, Derek Carr. Maybe you're okay paying over $18,000 for Lamar Jackson. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear why. As always, I really appreciate the viewership. If you guys could leave a like if you guys enjoyed the video, not only would it help me out a ton with growing the channel, it also lets me know that you guys enjoy this content and to make more of it in the future. Showdown content's a little bit niche. I know not everyone plays Showdown, but especially for Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and Sunday Night Football, I feel like a good amount of people do. So want to get the content out there for people that are playing those slates. But as always, again, leave a like if you enjoyed it. It lets me know to make more in the future. Next week, we're going to have previews for the Thursday night game, Monday night game as well as the main slate for Sunday. So normal week of football content coming up. We're also going to have golf back on the content schedule. We have the Fortinet Championship. So anybody that's a golf person out there, that is my primary sport on this channel. We're going to be hopping right into it this afternoon and tomorrow with our Draftkings picks. So stay tuned. Until then, though, see ya and good luck with any of your lineups for the Sunday slate.